Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video we're continuing with our error handling series and we're talking about recording errors. Okay, so recording errors is very important because consider the scenario where your application is running, backend or frontend in 10 servers for a backend application, right? 10 separate servers, or on the front end. A user opens their website, and in both of those cases, something goes wrong. Something goes wrong on the user side, and something goes wrong on the server side. You need to know about it, because if you don't deliberately record that an error occurred, you're never going to know about it, right? The website, your web page, isn't going to, when it crashes or when something goes wrong, is not going to notify your server or anything that something went wrong. It's just not going to work. And same thing with your server. When your application crashes, you just won't know about it. So you need to record the errors so you can know about them later. That's what we're talking about this video. So the easy way out of this is you can use a third-party service, right? You can practically stop watching the video right now. You can use a third-party service, and there are tons of them. One example that I've heard of is Sentry. Another one is New Relic. There are many more. I'm not making recommendations here. You set them up in your application, and they automatically record the errors that occur for you. They may also provide logging of what happened. Don't quote me on this. I haven't actually used all of these, but some of them provide logging, and that means a timeline of events of what has happened in your application. For example, for an e-commerce application, it might be something like user started a new session. User clicked on this product, user added product to cart, they went to checkout, an error occurred. Okay, so this history is very helpful for you to debug the problem later. Okay, like I hope that kind of makes sense. But you don't need to use these third-party services. You can do a simple thing of this yourself, because all you're doing really is you're recording these errors somewhere so that you, the developer, can look at them later and you can see, okay, these errors occurred. Here is the error information. Here is a stack trace. Let me go debug them and let me fix the code. Okay, that's basically how it works. So, all right. So basically, as I said, the goal is to know that an error occurred, right? That's like goal number one. The second one is to have enough information about the error so that you can go and debug it and fix the code. Okay, so basically, when an error occurs, you want to have something like a global error handler in your application. Okay, now using global error handlers can be very dangerous, but this is one case where I believe it's perfectly fine to do so, because the case is that no matter what goes wrong, you want to catch it. No matter what, you want to catch it and you want to record information about it. So it seems to me like an easy way to do this is to use a global error handler. Depending on your application and the programming language, there are different ones for those. For something like the front end, here is some code you can hopefully see on the screen. That is how you would do it. So we have window.addEventListener error, and that is your global error handler. No matter what error occurs, it's going to go into that handler, okay? And in that handler, we do very simple stuff. We get the information from that error object, right? JavaScript is going to automatically give an error object in there. It's a predefined object in the programming language, and it has useful data in there. So like it has the stack trace, it has the error message, and it has the error type. Like, for example, just plain error, or like type error or range error or whatever it is, okay? So anyway, so this all goes into the global error handler. In the backend, you would do exactly the same thing. Your framework or your programming language is going to provide something like this. You put some code in there. Now, in the handler, you want to record the error in some database or something, because this needs to be something that persists. It needs to be persistent storage. And it needs to be something, where you can go to one place and see your errors. Like if you have 10 servers running, you don't want to have to go into each server and check, are there any errors on server 1, server 3, server 5, 2, 4, whatever. No, you want to go to one place and see, okay, here are the errors that occurred. So you save it into some database somewhere, And then you, the developer, can go look at the database. You can see, okay, these are the errors that happened and when. And of course, you might have a user interface on top of that so that it's easier for you to work with. And of course, that's what the third-party services have, but you get the idea. So here with this code on the front end doesn't usually have direct access to a database, right? So in this case, we send a network request for the backend, and then the backend will save the error into the database. But of course, in the backend, you would just save the error into the database directly or something like that. So that's step one. You've recorded that the error has occurred. But the next question is, what do you record? So generally, the goal here is to debug the error later. So you want as much useful information as possible about what happened for this error. As much as you can, really, because it's a debugging thing, right? So generally, your programming language is going to have predefined error types. Like we said, for JavaScript, it has the error object type, and it has useful properties in there that are automatically populated, like the stack trace, the error methods, the error type, things like that. So those can be very useful. So I recommend using the predefined error types in your programming language, basically. If you need something more specific, so for example, in JavaScript, as we said, it has a type error, but I don't know, you might need like user error or whatever. I'm just making this up, right? But say you need something more specific in your application, no problem. Just create a derived type from those predefined error types, right? And if you need to, you can add custom properties to those error objects and whatever. And some more recommendations from the .NET best practices on exceptions, which I believe apply here perfectly, is to also, in your error messages, have them be grammatically correct. So for example, an error message could be the file foo.txt could not be found, full stop, right? And if you really need to, you can also make them localized. Like your error messages can have a message code that your localization setup populates with the correct error message for that particular language or whatever it is. But you don't need to go that far. You can just do what works for you, you know? So yeah, so that's pretty much it, right? That's pretty much the end of the video. So to summarize, you need to know that errors occurred in your application so that you can go and look at them in one place later and debug them. You need as much information about the error as possible so that, again, you can go debug them. Third-party services are probably the best thing to use here because they may provide logging, and that logging history helps a lot with debugging. And of course, they're good, right? So they write errors in a useful format. They consolidate them in a way where it's easy for you to see what's happened, how many have happened, when, and so on. They're very good. But if you wanted to do it yourself for whatever reason, you found out here. And of course, record as much information about the error as possible, as we said. All right, yeah, so that's basically it. A short one, but we have more error handling videos coming up on different important topics. But yeah, if you like this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future, especially the next ones we have coming up. And, as usual, if you have any comments, any suggestions, any feedback, then please leave a comment below. All right, thanks very much and see you next time.